tomorrow is Batman Day, and I have a guide here that'll help you through it. But before we dive into that, hi, I'm Jacob Berry. I am your host of StudioJake. This is my vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture, from film, television, anime to comic books, and so much more. Be sure to like this video, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment, tell me what you think, and also subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. I'm over 900. So every single click of that subscribe button really helps me out. All right, so going right into it, I wanted to do a big thing for Batman Week. I had changed my backdrop, changed my desk decorations, and tomorrow is, in fact, Batman Day. So I wanted to give you a good purchasing guide if you decide to go out and buy yourself some Batman comics. Now, it's not like manga. So DC Comics and Marvel Comics, they always do these reboots every 5 years or so, although DC has been doing them a lot lately. And you might be confused, like, what do I get? Where do I begin? What universe? So I'm going to give you a guide of my favorite stories that I'm trying to get, that even though they might be part of different continuities, you can still enjoy them as just a Batman story. I think it'll be fun, and I hope this works. And like I said, it's not like manga where it starts at volume 1. Some of these things came, they were part of pre-crisis continuity or post-crisis or the New 52 or the DC Rebirth or Dawn of DC, although I don't think I have any Dawn of DC stuff on here. It's not impressed me these past couple of months. But anyway, we're going to dive right into it. Now, before I go into the top 10, I did want to give an honorable mention, and that is to Paul Dini's Batman Private Casebook. So this is a collection of stories that Paul Dini, who was a co-writer on Batman the Animated Series, he did these, and they are part of the post-crisis Batman storyline. One or two of them may be out of continuity, but you can enjoy these. They're just like little it's a collection of different stories that Paul Dini wrote with a variety of artists. They're fantastic. I highly recommend them. But yeah, I wanted to shout this one out because if you can see this one, I think it might be out of print. So if you see it, definitely pick it up. All right. So now remember, these aren't in any particular order. I'm just regurgitating them. But up first, if you want a gritty version of Batman's origin, check out Batman Year One by Frank Miller. So as you can see, I have an original cover for the graphic novel. This I found just in a comic book store somewhere in California. This is the most recent, this was the most recent release when I purchased it. It's a bonus edition. They've since released other editions, but this is supposed to be Bruce Wayne's return to Gotham City, why he chose to become Batman, and his first encounter with the Mafia. You might remember Carmine Falcone or Falcone, depending on the writer, but Falcone was featured in Batman Begins as well as in The Batman, both of those films. So, highly recommend this. It's got a lot of action. It really shows Batman's relationship with Commissioner Gordon. Now, just so you know, Commissioner Gordon isn't portrayed so wholesomely in this. So if you're going into this expecting that, then you're going to be disappointed. But it's a fantastic story. They did an animated film version, which I highly recommend as well, where Bryan Cranston voices Commissioner Gordon. I highly recommend that as well. All right. So what do we have next? Now, this is an out of continuity. For a while, DC was they were kind of emulating Marvel's more mature audience storylines, and so they have this. So remember, this is not for kids, but this is a trilogy called Batman Earth 1. And the Earth 1 series, like I said, it was meant to be more realistic sort of stories, and this one, the artwork is fantastic. They're written by Jeff Johns and drawn by Gary Frank. I want to highly suggest that you purchase these three. Now, the third one, I will say, does kind of end kind of haphazardly. You can tell that they just wanted to close the arc. It did leave it wide open for a sequel, of course, because it's comic books. But I'm really excited. Mine, I actually have my first one here is autographed by Jeff Johns. I know he gets a lot of flack because of his handling of DC films. That being said, I still think he's an excellent writer, and you'll probably see his name more than once on this list. All right. So, moving on to the next one. This is another Batman origin. So in the New 52, they redid how Batman first became active. Now, I have the first two graphic novel releases. These have since been released in a complete version, an omnibus, if you will. And this is by Scott Snyder and the incredible artist Greg Capullo. But in this one, basically what happens is the Riddler takes over Gotham City. He hijacks everything. And Batman, at first, he doesn't go by that identity. He's just called the Vigilante. And it's very good. It's very exciting. This one's more sci-fi than Frank Miller's more grounded sort of story. There's a lot of technology involved, a lot of high-tech technology. So if you were looking for a more sort of sci-fi approach to Batman, this is definitely the one to go with. I highly recommend it. I actually enjoyed the New 52 Batman a great deal. I know some people didn't, but I think Scott Snyder, his run is probably one of the last great runs before DC Rebirth. So definitely check this out, Batman Zero Year. Scott Snyder's another one where you'll hear his name more than once. Now, I'm not he's of no relation to that cinema hack Zack Snyder, Scott Snyder. All right. So this one is kind of a more standalone story, but this is called Batman, Whatever Happened to the Caped Crusader, drawn by Andy Kubert, who's a very talented artist, and written by the novelist Neil Gaiman. So this one was written between Batman R.I.P. and the Battle for the Cowl. So basically, people thought that the villain Simon Hurt had killed Batman through his cult, the Black Hand. Later, that ended up not being the case, but Batman did die at the hands of Darkseid. But of course, they always come back. So this is kind of like a look at Batman's funeral. It's kind of out of continuity, so it's kind of like Batman's spirit is observing his own funeral. But what's interesting about it is every participant has a different story on how Batman died. So in the Joker's version, for instance, the Joker the Joker kills Batman, and then, but then Batman doesn't smile. He injects Batman with a lethal dose of his laughing gas, expecting Batman to grin. Batman refuses to grin and tells the Joker the reason is because this joke isn't funny. And then at the funeral, the Joker kind of acknowledges, yeah, that wasn't that funny of a joke. So highly recommend this one. Like I said, this one's out of continuity, so you can read it without being confused. You don't need to go back and read Batman R.I.P. or the Showdown with Darkseid. You can just pick this one up and have fun with it. It's got a really great, like I said, the artwork by Andy Kubert is superb. All right, so this is another out of continuity one. This is Batman, the Dark Prince Charming. So in this one, this woman is accusing Bruce Wayne of fathering her child, and and she is suing him. It's a paternity suit, but Joker kidnaps this child, and Bruce Wayne decides to rescue the child as Batman. Catwoman is involved. Joker starts to develop almost a paternal relationship with this child. She rejects him outright, but he seems to want to act like a father figure to her, and it's really bizarre how that works. It's very interesting. This it was written by oh my gosh, I forgot his name. But fortunately I have it right here. But he's a French writer named Marini, and it just is really good. It was done in conjunction with a French company called Urban Comics. So I highly recommend this one. To me, this is the last time you really see, at least in modern comics, Harley Quinn the way she is supposed to be, as opposed to, the knockoff Deadpool version that I always complain about. So I'll put that one over there. So what do we have next? So this is kind of a thick one. But just so you know, I consider all of these part of the same arc. So this is your post-crisis Batman series. So starting with Batman: The Long Halloween. This is my all-time favorite Batman story. So it's by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. This is the story of how the crazies, so like the Joker, the Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, how they took over Gotham City from the gang. There's a serial killer who's going around and killing gangsters. There's a lot of suspects, and it's really fascinating. Now, the artwork, I enjoy it. It's kind of meant to look more like pulpish, but it's very interesting and drawn very well. Now, this one is this is kind of meant, this is a sequel that was written kind of recently. This was meant to kind of fill in the gaps of some of the stuff, because some fans raised a couple of complaints about the Long Halloween. I don't see them, but this was raised to kind of answer some of those questions that people were raising. And I find it's really good. It's a one shot. This one, it might be a little harder to find. You may have to buy this one off Amazon. And of course, those goes with Dark Victory, which this is the post-crisis version of Robin's origin, but it's a direct sequel to The Long Halloween. It's very good, very entertaining, especially for all you classic Dick Grayson fans. When I was reading comic books, Dick Grayson was Nightwing, so getting to see him in his early days as Robin is really good. And Haunted Night takes place like sort of in between Long Halloween and Dark Victory. It's a series of short stories involving Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter. Once again, really good stuff. And now, this one came out later, so this might be controversial to add, but this is Batman Hush. This introduces a new villain called Hush to the Batman mythology. Now, it's actually drawn by Jim Lee as opposed to Tim Sale, but Jeff Loeb returns to write. That's why I say it's a sequel to The Long Halloween. It matches up, it goes together pretty well. Like I said, I consider all of those part of the same sequel, but you could get The Long Halloween, Dark Victory, Haunted Night, and Batman Hush individually. I just personally see them as all part of the same thing. So very, very good. And Jim Lee, superb artist. He's currently the chief creative officer of DC Comics. So, he's an artist. So take that with whatever you want. So this one is The Court of the Owls. Now, again, they have a complete edition of this. I have the original releases where they did it in two parts. Once again, takes place in the New 52. Scott Snyder is the writer. Greg Capullo is the artist. Now, the Court of Owls have kind of become like a popular villain. You've seen them in video games now. You've seen them in animated films. You've seen them all over the place. This is a really good introduction. Again, not for kids. Don't recommend it for kids. But it's basically Batman and the Batman family taking on an assault by this cult called the Court of Owls that uses undead soldiers. And they were a secret society that was kind of controlling it. And you really see like how this impacts Batman, how something that happened under his nose during his watch when he was supposed to be protecting, Gotham City. Like, how did this happen? And you really see that impact of it, but it's fantastic. I really love it, and it's a good precursor. I do think now Court of Owls are kind of being overused, but that's just a personal take on mine. I still think that they are really good. So, all right, moving on to the next one. So this is written by the great Chuck Dixon. For those of you who don't know, Chuck Dixon is the co-creator of Bane. Now, this story doesn't have Bane, but this is the Joker's last laugh. So in this one, Joker doesn't get sent to Arkham Asylum. He gets sent to a Supermax facility with a bunch of other supervillains. Well, while he's there, the prison doctor diagnoses him with cancer, and he says he only has a little while to live. Well, the Joker being the Joker, he decides that he is going to rain chaos, not just on Gotham City, but on the world. And so he uses a special version of his Joker toxin to turn his fellow inmates of this prison into fellow Jokers. And it's perfect timing because the Justice League is actually off in space. So Batman and the Birds of Prey, as well as members of the Batman family, have to work together to stop the Joker before he destroys the world. It is a really fascinating and interesting story. Chuck Dixon does such a good job, and I really enjoy this. If anything, this is one that they should adapt into an animated film. I actually would love to see it adapted into a full film. Maybe, that's what they could do for one of the Justice League movies in the new DCEU. Use this story because Chuck Dixon, his writing is amazing. He's good at both those sort of on the street level thugs, but he's also good with sort of grandiose stories like this. Highly recommend it. Fantastic. You'll have a good time with it. All right, we're getting down to the last couple here. Now, if you're wondering, what was Batman like in the early days before DC Comics even? So, Batman originally was run in a magazine. It was a pulp magazine called Detective Comics. It actually merged with another comic book company, and that is what created DC Comics. Kind of funny, Detective Comics. Anyway, the so this is those early days of Batman. Now, this is not your mother's or even your grandmother's Batman. This is Batman in his raw form. He still carries a gun on his waist. He is not opposed to ending the life of villains, though he hesitates to do so, but he's not as opposed to it. In other words, this is before the Comics Code Authority forced creators Bob Kane and Bill Finger to put his infamous no-kill rule. So with this one, it collects Detective Comics number 27 through 50. Now, I would like to say beforehand, yes, Batman is a little bit more lethal in these stories, but he is not the Punisher. He is not the way that he is portrayed in Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, where he just has a mounted machine gun on the Batmobile and he's blowing things and people and endangering civilians. It's not like that. He only uses lethality when he thinks it's absolutely necessary, and this only happens a handful of times. So go into that knowing that this is a more brutal Batman who's not afraid. He is more of a detective in this one as opposed to sort of a vigilante crime fighter. And this is a lot of these stories are even before the introduction of Commissioner Gordon. Although I take that back, Gordon does appear a couple of times in this, but Alfred's not in him. The villains, they look very different than their comic book counterparts today, but I do think you will enjoy it. Seeing, in fact, one of the covers that's featured in this one here, I don't know if you can see it, but that's actually the one I have pinned under the techno punk Batman that's in the backdrop. But definitely check this out. There are more of these. This is just volume 1, but I picked this one specifically because it has the first issue that introduces, or I should say collects the first issue that introduces Batman. Fantastic stuff. Bob Kane and Bill Finger were geniuses. All right, so we're at the last one, number 10. This is Batman 3 Jokers. Now, I've talked about this one on both my website, StudioJakeMedia.com, as well as on my channel here. This is, again, by Jeff Johns. It's drawn by Jason Fabok and Brad Anderson. Freaking love this story. So I know I've given summaries before, but basically what happens is Batman faces 3 Jokers. This was teased years ago, sort of at the tail end of the New 52, and they finally wrote a story about him. So basically, it's all generations of the Jokers. So you've got the Clown, who's a little bit less lethal. It's implied that he's the one that killed Jason Todd. I just said he's less lethal, but not lethal. He's implied to be the one that killed Jason Todd, and he is more about he wants to baffle the Batman. You have the Criminal, who laughing makes him hurt, so he wants to kill people with laughter. Make that one make sense. Definitely based more on the Jack Napier sort of version of Batman, of the Joker, the gangster version. He's more intelligent, more methodical with his ploys. He's not really interested in grandiose or theatrics. He just wants to outsmart Batman and have that final showdown with him. And of course, we have the Comedian, and this is more based on sort of the Mark Hamill Joker. They also say that it's the new. They also imply very strongly that it's the new 52 Joker. Now he wants grandiose. He wants fireworks and explosions. He wants lights. He wants his name on billboards. That's that Joker, the Comedian. This is a fascinating story. I enjoy it so much. I wish that they would do a sequel to it, maybe introduce other versions of the Joker. And this one is actually really good because Batman works with the 2 members of the Batman family that the Joker hurt the most, that being Barbara Gordon, who the Joker paralyzed, of course, and Jason Todd, who, as I mentioned, was murdered by the Joker. In this one, the 3 of them are the Batman family working together to stop these 3 Jokers. Fantastic. Now, I've got one more bonus. So this one takes place in the New 52. I don't think it ever concluded. They're doing something weird similar to it in the Dawn of DC, but this is Arkham Manor. So what happens in this is Arkham Asylum gets destroyed again, and the city uses the power of domain to take over Wayne Manor and turn it into the new Arkham Asylum. Now, like I said, this one doesn't exactly end conclusively, and at first Batman is angry about this. Bruce Wayne is furious. His family legacy is being disrupted. He has to move back into the base that's under Wayne Enterprises at Wayne Tower, but then he realizes he can keep a closer eye on all of them. So there's a mysterious new villain in this who is causing trouble at Arkham Manor, and somehow the Joker is involved. You can probably guess that it's up to no good. But if you can grab this one, it's written by Jerry Dungan, drawn by Sean Crystal. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's a really good read. Like I said, they don't conclude the Arkham Manor storyline that I know of. I've tried to find a second volume or other collected editions that conclude this arc, but it ends in a way where you understand what's going on, and also, like I said, the New 52 kind of it ended with the DC Rebirth, but you can still enjoy this. It's a really good story. It kind of brings Batman more to his detective roots, so that's a bonus. So you've got an honorable mention, a bonus, as well as a top 10 to pick up. So that's my pull list suggestions for Batman Day. I hope you have a good time at Batman Day. I hope you have fun. I plan on enjoying it a great deal. You can head over to my Instagram, which is RealJakeBerry, where I'll be posting pictures of stuff that I find. I'll be doing it 1 or 2 reels, and I'm also going to have just a blast on Batman Day. It's my second favorite holiday after the 4th of July. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that you Batman fans out there, whether you agree with me about things or disagree with me about things, I think we can all come together and have a really good Batman Day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment and tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to Studio Jake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's StudioJakeMedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time, right here on Studio Jake.